The Bay of Pigs invasion, the Space Shuttle Challenger launch decision, and the 2008 financial crisis all involved groups of intelligent, well-informed people making catastrophically poor collective decisions. In each case, the group dynamics that are supposed to make groups better than individuals, diverse perspectives, mutual critique, shared accountability, instead produced the opposite: premature consensus, suppressed dissent, and overconfident action. Groupthink explains why groups of smart people make stupid decisions together. Robert Zajonc resolved a century-old puzzle about social facilitation: why the presence of others sometimes improves and sometimes impairs performance, by proposing that observers produce a general increase in physiological arousal, which facilitates dominant responses. For simple or well-learned tasks where the dominant response is correct, increased arousal improves performance. For complex or novel tasks where the dominant response is incorrect, increased arousal makes performance worse. This elegantly explains why expert athletes perform better with audiences while novices perform worse, and why experienced chess players benefit from spectators while beginners do not. Social loafing is the reduction in individual effort that occurs when people work in groups compared to when they work alone. Ringelmann's rope-pulling experiments found that groups of 8 produced only about half the force that 8 individuals could produce alone. Effort per person declined with group size. Social loafing occurs because individual contributions are less identifiable in groups, reducing personal accountability, and because the dispensability of any individual's contribution reduces motivation. Social loafing is reduced when contributions are identifiable, when the task is meaningful, when group members value the group, and when the group is small. Irving Janis coined the term groupthink to describe the deterioration of mental efficiency, reality testing, and moral judgment that occurs in cohesive groups when the desire for harmony and unanimity overrides realistic appraisal of alternatives. Groupthink is characterized by illusions of invulnerability, collective rationalization, belief in the group's inherent morality, stereotyped views of outgroups, self-censorship, pressure on dissenters, illusions of unanimity, and the emergence of self-appointed mind guards who protect the group from dissenting information. Janis identified the pattern by comparing successful and failed foreign policy decisions. Janis identified 3 sets of conditions that promote groupthink. Structural faults include insulation of the group from outside information, lack of methodical decision-making procedures, and a directive leader who expresses a clear preference early in deliberations. Situational context factors include high stress, recent failure requiring explanation, and low hopes of finding a better solution than the leader's preferred option. Group cohesion is necessary but not sufficient. Highly cohesive groups with good decision-making structures can make excellent decisions. It is cohesion combined with structural and contextual antecedents that produces groupthink. Janis prescribed several procedural safeguards against groupthink. Assigning a devil's advocate, a group member whose formal role is to challenge dominant proposals, reliably improves decision quality. Inviting outside experts who have not been socialized into the group's assumptions introduces fresh perspectives. Having the leader withhold their preference until others have expressed their views prevents premature conformity around a leader-sanctioned position. Breaking the group into subgroups that develop alternatives independently and then compare proposals also reduces groupthink. The Kennedy administration implemented several of these after the Bay of Pigs failure and handled the Cuban Missile Crisis far more effectively. Group polarization is the tendency for group discussion to shift the group's overall position in a more extreme direction along the dimension that was initially favored by most members. If individual members are moderately in favor of taking a risk, group discussion tends to produce a consensus in favor of greater risk, the risky shift. If members are moderately cautious, discussion produces a consensus in favor of greater caution. Group polarization occurs through 2 mechanisms: social comparison, as members present their positions and try to align with the group's apparent value while distancing from the opposite extreme, and persuasive arguments, as discussion generates additional arguments supporting the dominant position. Deindividuation occurs when individuals in groups lose their sense of individual identity, reduce self-awareness, and personal accountability, producing a state in which internal moral standards are less likely to guide behavior and the situational norms of the group become dominant instead. Deindividuation is facilitated by anonymity, large crowd size, darkness, and symbols of group membership like uniforms or face coverings. The classic demonstration is Zimbardo's study, in which de-individuated participants delivered more electric shocks than identified individuals. The Internet's combination of anonymity and group identification creates ideal conditions for de-individuated behavior online. Groupthink and de-individuation represent two distinct mechanisms through which groups fail to harness individual rationality. In groupthink, the social pressure toward cohesion and agreement suppresses the diversity of perspectives and critical thinking that makes groups potentially better than individuals. In de-individuation, the diffusion of identity into the group dissolves the self-regulatory resources that normally prevent individuals from acting on impulse or norm-deviant motivations. Both mechanisms reveal that being part of a group is not automatically beneficial. It introduces social dynamics that can systematically undermine the quality of both decisions and behavior. Groups can be wiser than individuals or far more foolish, more courageous or more cowardly, more innovative or more conformist, depending on whether the right structures and norms are in place. Understanding groupthink, social facilitation, loafing, polarization, and de-individuation gives both designers of organizations and members of groups the knowledge to maximize group benefits and minimize group failures.